Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm Elite and today we are going to review The Edge of Fate. This is probably going to be a little bit of a longer video, so if you don't want to watch the entire thing, I will try and put timestamps or chapters in the YouTube videos so you can skip to where you want. But I'm going to go through everything. The gameplay is just general me running around Kepler doing random stuff. So there isn't going to be any visual spoilers. However, I will be discussing story, weapons, and all that type of stuff. So if you don't want to be spoiled, go play the DLC and come back after. But without any more blabbering from me, let's get into the first point, which is going to be the story. So the whole story revolves around figuring out why we're on Kepler and what Lodi's point in all of this is. And I'll be honest, the first half of the story is extremely boring. There isn't a ton to do. It starts getting better towards the end when Lodi starts revealing more and Orin becomes more vocal with what's happening, as well as when we actually speak to the Nine. I found that very interesting. But it was a very slow and somewhat confusing story. There are a lot of pieces, and I understand that this is the first chapter, per se, in the new storyline, but I would have preferred it to be more streamlined. I was absolutely not a fan of the more open world aspect of the story in not having the linear missions. I thought the missions were quite fun, but again, I preferred that linear storyline like the final shape had, opposed to this one, which was you could go do 2 or 3 different missions in any order if you wanted to. As well, I did not expect to see Maya back and playing a pivotal role in the story towards the end. I honestly thought that we would just be dealing with the Fallen, and to see her back was interesting, to say the least. And if I'm being completely honest, I kind of liked her in this DLC. She wasn't very interesting during Echoes, but during this DLC, she actually seemed like a threat, especially in the final cutscene where she pulls 3 from another dimension into ours using the Echo of Command. That, to me, just says how powerful she actually is, and that she'll somewhat be an actual threat akin to the Witness in the future. Overall, I wouldn't say this is the best that Bungie has ever done with the story. I think Final Shape and Forsaken were far better stories, but this is on the better side. It isn't Lightfall, because we all know Lightfall's story was terrible, but there could have been improvements, and I hope that they do take the feedback from this story and work on it going forward into Renegades, although I imagine Renegade story is mostly finished. Now, talking about Kepler as a destination, I will start off by saying that it not being on the destination screen is a stupid decision, and I really hope Bungie either adds it to the destination screen, or they have some sort of plan to add it to the destination screen, because right now it's sitting in the portal, it doesn't feel right, and I will talk about the portal in a little bit. Kepler having a lot of secrets I find really cool, and a lot of the side quests are nice. I still have a handful to do because I've been neglecting doing them, but it is pretty interesting if you ask me. I do like that it is a more interactive destination than we've had previously. It is something akin to the Dreadnought from Destiny 1, but on a much bigger scale. As well as I do find the new abilities, that being Matter Spark, Matter Morph, and the Relocation Cannon, to be very cool, albeit not necessary parts of the campaign, or of the destination as a whole. With something like Lightfall, it seemed like the story was designed around you using Strand, and constantly having it taken away and given back to you, where this seems like they designed the story and Matter Spark at the same time, because it is an integral part of the story, but it isn't the entire story, if that makes sense. Although I would like to see Matter Spark added to the Arc subclass with some sort of transcendent barrier, or transcendent bar where you can use it, but you have to build up a bar to use it. That, or you can swap it out for your Sparrow, something like that. I would like to see it be used in more areas than just Kepler, because it is a fun ability, but it being limited to one destination seems like a waste to me. Lastly, while we're talking about the story and Kepler as a planet, I want to talk about the world tier system, which I think is a great addition. However, I do think that the world tier system should extend to every patrol destination, where you just set which level you want to be at, and you go from there. As well as I do think the Fabled level is what Legendary previously was, because I soloed both Legendary and Fabled, and I didn't have too much trouble. Fabled started to get harder towards the end of things, but it was not the hardest thing ever. I have tried Mythic. I am currently working on Mythic, and I will tell you right now, I'm not a fan of it, simply because the enemies aren't tougher, they just take more bullets to kill, and that is not fun. Now, moving on to something a bit more divisive, it seems, throughout the community, the new gear changes. We now have a tier system of 1 to 5, as well as our old gear not being updated to encompass the tier system. I think the tier system is great. I am very happy with it. However, I'm not happy with how Bungie have delivered the tier system. And if you bear with me, I will explain it to you. As it stands, you will get tier 1 drops from anything. Tier 2 drops come from slightly harder content, and then it goes up from there. However, the harder activities are still dropping tier 2s and 3s when they should be dropping tier 4s. This is an issue in my opinion, especially when we talk about the raid in a minute, because the raid drops tier 1 fucking gear, and that is bullshit because it is a raid. It should drop tier 3, 4, and 5 gear. As well as the new stat system is great, but you're only going to really benefit from it once you get to the tier 3 and 4 sections. Tier 1 and 2, they're fine. You can get 200 in one stat and 100 in another stat if you're lucky. But you're only going to really benefit from it when you get to tier 3 and 4. And I feel at this point in time, most players aren't going to get to that stage simply because there isn't enough offerings for that. Which kind of leads me into my next point, which is the portal, which is cool, but Bungie are missing a lot of activities, especially because at this point, the only real way to grind levels is just speedrun Encore. Like, you could do the other missions, but Encore is the best way to grind. And it's just not fun. You're only giving us 4 missions for the Pinnacle tab. And when you're not giving us enough, we're going to run the same shit. But then they disabled Encore because it was too good. Which is another problem because, as we all know, Bungie only ever fix things quickly when it benefits the player base. They never fix things quickly when it is a detriment to the player base or when it is significantly broken. For example, third iteration is doing more damage than intended. That's being fixed tomorrow as I'm recording this video. That is something that I would have, as a game dev, left in for a little bit longer so people can play with it. Obviously, I understand it's not meant to do that much damage. It does need to be fixed. But players are having fun with it and you're fixing it within less than a week. There are sound effects issues that are not being fixed yet. There are issues crashing games that are not being fixed yet. And you're telling me that you're focusing on third iteration because it does slightly more damage and the player base is having fun with it. But in addition to what I was saying about the portal before I had a rant about third iteration, the way you get power, I do like it. I don't like that we were reset to 10 power, because now everything else in my vault that I'm not using is 10 power and I don't have the gear to infuse up. So I'm stuck with 10 power gear, which is a detriment to me, might just be a me issue, might be me just being a bitch and bitching about it. But yeah, I don't like the fact that we were reset, especially considering anything over 200 is being reset in 6 months. I do not like that. If I grind out and gain this power, I should be able to keep it. I understand getting rid of the seasonal bonus that we used to have. That was understandable, because we would only get about 20 levels if we grinded really fucking hard. But now I'm grinding up to 250 levels to get to 450. And that's all going away in 6 months, which honestly is just a feels bad moment. I also forgot to mention this before, so I'm just going to throw it in now. There's an activity on Kepler called the Civ. It's a 3-player activity where it's like Gambit-esque activities. It's like a private public event type of thing. It's really cool, and you can get the new exotics by doing it if you don't want to do a legendary campaign again. However, it's available for half an hour every 2 hours. Whose decision was that? That's a brand new activity that you want your player base to engage in, but you only have it available for 30 minutes every 2 hours. That is honestly just poor game design in my opinion. If you're giving me a new activity, why should I not be able to just go access it whenever I want, or play through it whenever I'd like? It might just be a moment where I'm having a bitch again, but there's just so many confusing moments in this entire DLC where I don't understand what Bungie's doing because they're just limiting the player base. And I know it sounds like I'm being really negative towards Edge of Fate, which isn't how I want to come off. There's just so many questionable decisions that Bungie has made when it comes to this DLC that I'm thinking, why have you changed this? Something like Kepler not being on the destination screen, why is that a thing? Why did they make the destination screen grayed out? It's just, why? Why Bungie, why? Which is a thing that we seem to be asking more and more these days. Why have they done this? And what bullshit are they going to pull next? But let's talk about my last point, and that is the raid and the contest raid. Which, oh boy. They really overdid it with contests this time. It was basically you had to hot swap loadouts, or you were not going to make damage on the final boss. I didn't see too much of the other bosses, but yeah, that is just not how you want your community to play with, because at this point, contest isn't for the community or for the hardcore raiders or anything like that. Contest is for the content creators who want to get views of them struggling through the content. For example, Sweatsicle sat there for 30 hours doing the raid. He beat it within the time limit, but that is absolutely ridiculous. I've gone in on normal mode and I've beaten it twice with LFG teams, and I think it is a great raid, but people watching the streamers struggle that much is going to be a deterrent overall, in my opinion. So I think contest, while cool, needs to be looked at and needs to be reassessed as who it is for, because it is not for the wider community anymore. That type of content is not what your general player base is going to engage in. Even the top 1% of raiders are going to be questioning whether they want to engage in contest, because it is just that bullshit at this point. Apart from that, I think the raid is great. It's got a lot of great mechanics. The only issue that I have with the normal raid at this point is most of the mechanics require absolute perfection, which I don't like in raids, because you should be able to fail once. Like, you have that room of error, where in this raid and Salvation's Edge, if you screw up in almost any encounter, you're wiping. And if you're teaching someone, they're going to be a detriment to the team, which is unfortunate, because I don't think that's how you should get into raiding. Also, being able to choose which boss you fight in what order is a cool concept. I do think it's a good thing, but again, I think I would have preferred just a normal raid where they say, here's a boss, kill it. 4 bosses in a raid is something we haven't had before, which I think is a cool thing, and I like it. I like it just being boss fights with no puzzle mechanics, or puzzle encounters like Verity or Vault from Last Wish. It is just bosses. Go kill the boss, go shoot the big boy, have a lot of fun. Overall, I think Edge of Fate is a decent expansion. It is not the best expansion in the world, It is not the worst expansion in the world. It is mid-tier, but it is on the better end of things. It is much better than Lightfall and Shadowkeep and Curse of Osiris. It offers a lot more, and I think that it is just being dragged down by a lot of negative changes, as well as a lot of negative issues that Bungie are not fixing quick enough, or they are not talking about quickly enough. So if you're in this part of the video and you're still questioning whether or not you should buy Edge of Fate, personally, I think you should. If you enjoy Destiny, it's more Destiny. It's got a lot of good changes, and it is going to benefit you in the long run if you're going to continue playing. However, if you do not like Destiny and you are still questioning whether you should buy Edge of Fate or not, do not buy it. Unless you are hyped for it and you are wanting to play more, I would not suggest it. But that's going to be it for the video. I do hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.